Welcome back, everybody, to the Voices for Blogging podcast, where we have faces for radio and voices for blogging. You can find us on our Podbean app, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else you usually find your podcasts. You can also follow us on Instagram at Voices for Blogging. As always, here in Honolulu, I'm Steve Lee. Over in Los Angeles is Roy Samano. We got a big show for you guys today. We have two guests. First time ever. I shouldn't say that, Royce. That's not the first time ever because we had Jay and Evan on at the same time. So
that's true. That is true.
We did do this foursome once. That sounded pretty, Anyway, take that for whatever you want.
But
we have a big night here. We have the debut of Owen from Kailua. If you guys remember the beginning of our podcast last year, we talked about someone just really struggling in fantasy football. I think it went to about 0-9 until he finally won. And I think one of his first two losses was to his girlfriend who had never played fantasy football before ever. So he caught a lot of grief and his name became Owen. But we got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about the run in Ethereum. We're going to talk about a little housekeeping with some of the things we talked about with Earn on Gemini last time out. But I got to start with very recent news. And guys on the podcast can see what I'm drinking here. And the team that's on the cup, they just find very creative ways to lose. We just watched the end of Thursday night football. My Giants.
The losers, man.
They always find a way. So, we're going to kick it off with talking about that. Owen from Kailua, jump on in right away with your thoughts here, and we'll get rolling.
Well, I mean, I think I have to start off with the play calling by Washington. How do you throw the ball on 2nd and 4 when you're up 1 and you have Antonio Gibson in the backfield?
You're up 1. You're at your own 20-yard line.
Exactly.
Why are we taking that chance?
Yeah.
And let's flip that around and talk about the Giants play calling. 2 minutes left in the game. You're in position to kick the field goal.
Yeah.
You get a first down. You can run this whole clock out and kick the field goal to win the game. But no, we run 3 plays. We run 3 plays in 20 seconds. And we kick the field goal before the 2-minute warning and give Washington the ball with 2 minutes left.
You know who else knows what it's like to have a passing play called when it should have been a running play?
We're going to talk about your Bears. We'll get to them.
No, I'm talking about Russell Wilson.
Ooh. Yeah. Yeah. You talk about the game that cost me $50,000 that I would have won in my phone?
Well, I don't know about that, but there was a meme about that tonight, actually, after that.
Oof. But yeah, I mean, great first week and a game in the NFL season. I think we got to see something different this year because of the new schedule with the extra game. I really feel like, and Owen, I talked to you about this a little bit before, like I really feel like a lot of teams just treated this as preseason week 4. And if they lost week 1, they're kind of like, whatever. 16 more games. The target's to win
season.
10 games. Yeah, target's to win 10.
Extra game means a lot this year.
It's a long season, yeah.
And extra game to also lose a lot of players, a lot of season-ending injuries in this first week. I got some thoughts on that. But, Royce, what do you think about your Bears?
My Bears? Who did they play this week?
They were in your backyard.
Oh, yeah.
So what kind of fan are you? Why weren't you at SoFi?
Oh, no, I was watching it on my friend was in town.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been doing a lot of drinking. The place I was at too, we were watching, whatever games were on were on CBS or Fox or whatever. So I totally forgot about that. By that point, I was probably drunk.
This is just like me making fun of your loyalty to the San Francisco Giants, that you peruse and you frequent LA Dodger games. Like, I don't know, man. That hat don't mean nothing, man. Like, you go to Dodger games and you cheer for the Dodgers.
Nobody can see it.
It makes no sense. It's sacrilege, man.
Hey,
sacrilege. You'll never see me at Cowboys Stadium cheering for the Cowboys.
I want to make it out of the parking lot. Ken knows. Ken knows what I'm talking about, man.
I do. If I were a Giants fan, I would never wear that hat to a Dodgers game like that. You're just asking for it.
Putting my life in jeopardy.
All day.
All you need is an overweight, lady throwing a drink, and all hell breaks loose in your section, dude. That's it. That's all you need.
That was the Rams game.
That's all you need. Just one overweight lady throwing that drink, and you're done.
That happened to you in the Coliseum?
Yeah, it wasn't in the Coliseum. It was in the new SoFi Stadium. Like they had it on their first preseason game.
Okay.
They basically had this YouTube video, or some guy posted it on YouTube from his cell phone, where there was this brawl between this guy and like a whole other group of guys. And it was about to end when this lady took her drink and threw it, and it landed on the guy, and then they just started fighting. Like the guy was about to walk away, so basically she started a fight.
His back was turned. They were jawing at each other, and his back was turned. He was about to leave, and this lady like throws a drink, and of course, like he thinks some guy, like someone just hit him in the back, right?
What's like that other video? What game was that, Owen, where the lady was screaming at this one guy and slapped him in the face?
That was a Steeler game.
That was a Steeler game, right?
Yeah.
So the guy ends up cold cocking that woman's husband, like he went to sleep. Yeah. Like he put him to sleep with one shot.
Yeah. She slapped him twice.
She slapped him twice, right? And like he was holding his composure. Like, I mean, it was crazy.
I'm sure that'll happen in Vegas sometime this season.
Guarantee.
How do we know that didn't even already happen at that Ravens game?
I'm sure it has. I'm sure it already has.
But Owen, how did fantasy go with you this week?
Owen? Me?
Yeah.
It's 2-1. I lost one in.
Wow, look at that!
I lost one in
the
family
can you repeat that again? Which one you lost again?
In my family league.
How many people in that family league have any experience playing fantasy football?
One. I lost to the one guy who had fantasy experience. One. And
the streak continues.
Oh, and don't let this guy talk to you like that, man.
I won my two main ones. That's
the ones that matter the most.
Yes.
Any advice for our listeners about fantasy this year? Strategies you went into with the draft? How you kind of went about picking your team?
Well, last year I went boom or bust, and it was definitely a bust. This year I went a little bit more safe. Chose the people who were more stable. So I went a lot more, not veterans, but a lot of 3-4 years. And then in another league I went all rookies, and it kind of paid off. I went a lot of second years, so I went CD, and I picked T. Higgins in every single draft, which is my favorite receiver right now in the league. Big size, big body, that AJ Green type of player. Right. And then I surprised everyone with taking Trey Lance and Tom Brady back to back, and yeah.
But here's the question: Did you have the courage to play Trey Lance this week?
No.
And capitalize on his first touchdown pass. I don't think anyone saw that coming.
Well, I mean, just like the Justin Fields one.
Right.
No one saw Justin Fields playing a snap.
But I saw that more of a chance of him doing something than Trey Lance doing something like
definitely
throwing a touchdown.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I definitely started Tom Brady this week against a Dallas team that still has yet to figure it out on defense.
Yeah.
Did you guys take a chance on Gronk this year?
I picked him up.
After the fact,
I would have drafted him if I could.
You guys drafted him? Or you drafted him, Royce?
I didn't draft him, but I would have if I could. Like, if he was there at the right time, I would have taken him. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. But then again, the tight end that I ended up drafting, though, was Kelsey, so I had him in the first round.
No, you're good.
I was under the impression that O.J. Howard was going to come back healthy, and because when he left, he was doing good with Brady. But he hasn't come back yet, and Cameron Brate's not really doing anything either.
Yeah, O.J. Howard, I was really high on him last year, and he was looking really good until he got hurt.
Yep.
But, for a speed tight end like that, you get that kind of injury, it's going to take some time to get back in the fold. But really, when I watched Gronk play that first game, man, you had flashbacks to, you saw the chemistry. You just saw it. And what we talked about, you heard it, when they played back the sound. Like, break. Like, their communication's unbelievable.
He literally told him to block and release.
Yeah, block and release. Literally just said.
Tom Brady said,
release.
Block and release.
Like, straight up, just told him, and that's it.
Yep.
And the play still worked.
Yep.
But Royce, what do you got going in fantasy this past weekend?
Like my team had a good week. At least one of my teams.
Mm-hmm.
I had Russell Wilson. I had Amari Cooper, Debo Samuel,
Mm-hmm.
Kelsey. Like I told you, I had Landry,
Right.
and then my running backs were Edmonds and Henderson from the Rams.
Right.
But
That's
no,
a
I was
pretty good
interested in
score.
watching that Bears game just to see how Matthew Stafford was going to do with the Rams, and
Dude,
I
he
wanted to
uncorks
watch
that deep ball. He uncorks that deep ball, and it's the wet dream of every Rams fan right now, where you're like,
Yeah.
man, someone that can push the ball down the field, not afraid to throw the ball out there.
Yeah, he's definitely got an arm. Like I think his arm talent and his accuracy downfield is maybe better than Goff's, but
Maybe it's definitely
but
better.
I still think that a lot of it was play calling. You know, like they pretty much threw Goff under the bus when he left. But you know, we're gonna see. Like he looked pretty good in Detroit.
He
his
did,
last
but
game.
he's also doing his check down thing. Like the reason why they got rid of him in LA was his inability to take the risk and throw the accurate deep ball at the right time. You know, not just throwing it when it's safe, but just being able to throw it. Like I think Goff, his biggest thing is he plays afraid of making mistakes. So he's that guy.
He made a lot of
just
mistakes.
Right.
No, he can throw the deep ball. He's done it before. I think the biggest difference is that they went away from the play action. Like they never, like in the years that they had success, like the year they went to the Super Bowl, they relied on Gurley a lot, right? Until, you know, I think it got hurt that year too at the end. But like their whole offense was around running Gurley and play action, and it opened up a lot of lanes, I think. And towards the end of the time that Goff was here, it was like, I would swear it was like 70%, 80% they were throwing the ball.
Well, they're giving him the short passing game a lot.
For whatever reason. They're trying to you become predictable, and it makes the game that much easier.
Yeah,
Like
I
they were
always say
using their wide receiver screen passes as short runs.
yeah, but the biggest thing I would say about golf is if you're a coach, and Owen, you can jump in on this. If you got to be in your quarterback's ear for the whole time the NFL allows you to be before they shut off the mic for him to run a play, that's way too much hand holding that you shouldn't have to do in the NFL.
Yeah, well,
You know, and it really just kind of either submarine his confidence or it's a reflection of where he is football wise.
I think they just lost trust. McVay lost trust in him.
100%.
You know, obviously he's not going to be happy about that either. Like the relationship just turned south, and you know they needed a change.
Yep. So Owen, you coach quarterbacks. What's kind of like for you? You know, at your level when you're coaching quarterbacks, what do you tell them?
well, I mean, we have to keep it simple, right? So, I mean,
Right.
I would love to do double moves, play action pass where they can make the progression. I mean, a lot of it has to do with their line play too, but I think mostly it's a lot of pre-snap read and just knowing who's what the corners and what the DBs are doing. I think it's
Right.
a big part of it. Where the linebackers are lining up. Like we run a lot of RPO, so that's like run
Right.
pass option. So we have a run play and a pass play in there at the same time. Kind of what Carson Wentz is doing at the peak of his powers, you know, in
Yeah.
Philly. A lot of that
Right.
zone read with that slant behind, because that's what we ran in high school too, and in
Right.
college somewhat too. But that's
Right.
like bread and butter right there. But
Right.
it's so easy. You're just reading you're reading two guys, and they should be in the
Right.
same picture.
And when you think about that relationship with Goff and McVay, could you imagine putting yourself in Goff's shoes and having your coach just in your ear like that the whole time like that? How would that mess with your head as a player?
That would be kind of irritating. Like, you know, I'm a pro for a reason.
100%.
Like you drafted me second overall for a reason. Like, you know, give me a little chance, give me the reins a little bit, let me go. And I think, I don't know. I think he's going to be successful in Detroit just because they're going to be a run heavy team, but he's definitely a transitional piece in a rebuilding team.
That's the sad part, right? Like
Yeah.
he's a high draft pick. He's been to the Super Bowl. You know, he did some good things, you know, this past Sunday, but I don't hear anybody talking about him like, yeah, man, he's Detroit's future. Like he's young. He's so young.
He's young. Like I don't know. I think he'll be okay. It kind of reminds me of the same situation that Sam Darnold was in. Like Sam Darnold, to me, he's a quarterback that has talent, right? Just in a bad situation, and like he played. We'll see how the season plays out, but I mean, he played pretty good this last last
he's
game.
getting good coaching. Sam Darnold's going to get great coaching down in Carolina.
A lot better than
You know,
Adam Gase.
Right. You got Brady down there, and you have Matt Rule.
Yeah.
And they're going to coach it up. You know, Joe Brady's probably not going to be there after this year because once Sam Darnold has a good season, someone's going to try to hire him as their head coach. Probably your Bears, to be quite honest, because when they're going to get rid of Matt Nagy if it goes bad again.
Yeah.
I'm surprised USC is not looking at him as a head coach, potential head coach.
Joe Brady.
Yeah.
I think that's USC. Any buzz down there about the USC situation? I mean, a lot of people have been wanting to get rid of Helton for the last 3 years. I mean, ever since Darnold's rise, you know, in the fall off, like everyone's willing to kind of fall out, you know, get rid of Helton, and it finally happened.
I was surprised they got rid of the coach so fast, seeing that it's only been one game. But you know, it's SC. They have high expectations, right? And
Yep.
they're going to find a big name guy to take over the program. They want to get back to where they were with Pete Carroll.
Well, now cheating is legal, so you can.
Well, it's not really
Like-
cheating, right? It's like
Oh.
you making money off of your, you know, doing Reggie Bush.
But that's one point. So what happened to Reggie Bush is now legal. So
Yeah,
you can cheat.
yeah.
So
So
you can-
maybe
you
that
definitely-
is a more attractive place now, like for star athletes.
Mhm.
You know, or UCLA, right, Ken?
Hey, I give Chip Kelly
Right.
this. That team looks like a Chip Kelly team now. It
They look
finally
good, yeah,
looks
they
like
look
a
good.
Chip Kelly team. The quarterback's got to work on some accuracy because playing against UH, he couldn't hit like these open receivers. Like you're not gonna hit open receivers against UH. You're in trouble because we let everybody score. I mean, I think last time I checked, we have a defensive head coach, but we let everybody score.
Hey, you know, it used to be our offense was our best defense, right? Like
Yeah.
the good old days. But yeah, I want to see UCLA get back to like how they were when, you know, they had MJD and Mercedes Lewis, and then those were some good teams.
Hey, Charbonnet looks good, man. Charbonnet coming home to Cali and coming home to play for Chip right now in this one read offense for that running back. You know, he never looked this explosive at Michigan. Same guy, just looks different because of the system.
Or the Sun.
You know, in Michigan he'll get 30 carries and 120 yards. Chip's offense he'll get 10 carries and 130 yards.
Yeah, no, it's a different
It's a huge
different
difference.
beast. Different beast.
Completely different beast, same player. So,
Right.
Royce, we didn't do our picks this week. Are we going to continue that tradition this year?
Yes, we need to do that.
No, you were too drunk to give me
Yep.
your picks. I think on Saturday night when I texted you. I think that's what. You said because
Probably.
you said you were gonna look, and about an hour or two later, still no text back. I'm like, yeah, you drunk. It's okay.
What was I doing Saturday?
Oh, and you in on football picks this year? You're gonna get put on the page on our Instagram
Sure.
page with
Oh,
your
hell
picks.
yeah.
We'll just
Sure.
so we usually use on Vegas Insider. You get all the odds. We usually use. I usually use the MGM line to make the bet. So it's all on that stuff. Over unders, money lines, point line, all of it's wide open. So
Sounds
you can
good.
make as many picks as you want every week, but as Royce found out, he probably shouldn't make so much every week.
Sometimes you don't want to make any picks. You're just hurting yourself. I think we should make our guests make picks. The week that they're on, they should make picks.
Well, that's what's going to
Well,
happen.
We'll see. We'll
So
see how
if
it
you
goes.
hustle and get this thing uploaded and edited, which is, again, thank you for all that work, because I can only imagine how much of a pain in the butt it is to edit this stuff and put it out there.
Look,
But-
I have a greater appreciation for all of these YouTube bloggers and podcasters because it is a job. It is a job, man.
Hey, it's a good thing you don't have one.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good thing I don't. My job is podcast editing.
You don't think what Royce does is a job?
Oh no,
Trust me.
I do. This is
It's like five jobs.
this is the conversation that we had when he was home. Is it is sometimes when you're doing something that's really outside of the norm, sometimes it's hard to explain to friends and family here in Hawaii like what you're doing, because it's just not as prevalent here. What he's doing day in day out. it's a lot easier of a conversation a lot of times on the mainland to talk about crypto investing and mining and all the work that comes into that. Like, oh, and you're gonna be sticking around when we talk about crypto. Like, it'd be kind of cool to have you around because you can ask questions like someone that doesn't know much about it. Because the questions will be good, because I think the feedback we've been getting, guys, from the audience is sometimes it just goes way too over their head. But that's only the people that are listening that maybe aren't too familiar with crypto. I have no idea who these people are that are listening. That's why. So maybe there are people that they get it and they're totally into it, but the numbers are going up. So I don't know. That's all I get. I guess that's all I care about. But
Number go up.
Number
number go up.
Number go
So
up.
we bring Ken on, and the F goes for another run.
That's right. That's the only reason I'm here.
And tonight, Ken get a little greedy.
Here.
He wanted back on because he wanted to push it back up some more. I
It's
think
actually Roy's. Roy's the one that said, hey, we got to get you back on because, we need another run here.
I mean, right at this moment, Ethereum is at 35.6435, which is, to me, still above key support levels. It violated it real quick and it popped back up. And I think it's showing a lot of strength there.
I think so.
It's looking pretty good. Stack that way.
Stacked that way.
A little housekeeping before we jump into this conversation, but we mentioned at the on our last show about Gemini dollar having an interest rate of 8.4% and mentioning that potentially it was FDIC insured based off some things that are on the app on Gemini. And so I decided to do a little digging to make sure, just to confirm that's true, because if it is, fantastic. I'm moving more of my savings in there, because where am I going to get 8.4%?
Guaranteed, right.
We're doing nothing. We're doing absolutely nothing. So I write to them, I email them, and, they actually get back to me in a timely manner, about 2-3 days, which is pretty fast for Gemini. And they don't mention at all in their response about this blurb they have in their description of Gemini dollar that mentions holdings at State Street and that they could be eligible for FDIC insurance at $250,000. They don't mention any of that stuff in their response. I asked them the question back again. I say, hey, you guys allude to State Street and FDIC. You didn't answer my question. And they came back and answered it the same way. So obviously, Harold, who is the guy responding to me, is obviously working off some kind of script. So I text him a part of the description of Gemini dollar that reads, Gemini is U.S. regulated by the New York Department of Financial Services. GUSD reserves, Gemini dollar reserves, are eligible for FDIC insurance up to $250,000 per user while custodied with State Street Bank and Trust. So really the question is, how do I get a custody with State Street Bank and Trust then? Because I want to get that insurance if I can. And they just so I just sent that reply to them today, a screenshot of that description. I said, just explain this to me, because otherwise it seems pretty misleading. And, we've talked about before people's attention to detail and attention span when they're reading stuff. Real quick, at a quick glance, you just see those magical keywords and you think, yeah, man, let's move money in there. I'm FDIC insured. Heaven forbid something happens to Gemini, but if it does, everyone that thought their money was safe, it might not be.
Yeah, I mean, the way it reads, it sounds like it's talking about all GUSD, right?
Right.
So, like, say Gemini, and obviously I don't know, but this is what it sounds like when I read it, is that if you deposit money into Gemini and you get GUSD, like, it's the pool of all people that deposit money into Gemini that get GUSD. So, like, if everyone deposits their money and there's like 300 million GUSD, it looks like that's the thing that's insured for 250K. But I mean, again, we'll have to wait and see what they say.
Right.
Yeah. The more interesting thing about that, I think, is that in the last week, the SEC or the Coinbase actually came out with a letter or with the Twitter post basically that said that the SEC is going after them for their yield product, which sounds fairly similar to what Gemini is offering with this 8% yield on GUSD. So it's really going to be interesting to see how that plays out in the next couple months.
Yeah. What's your take on that, Ken?
I agree with both of you. The language is so vague. It reads like a lawyer, cover your ass kind of statement. And
Right.
There's so many, like I said, there's so many caveats here, right? Like while custody with State Street, like what if they're not using, what if they terminate that relationship with State Street? Then you're not covered, right? Or what if the portion that what if just a portion of it is covered by State Street? Right. It's so vague. I don't know. I look at this and I just think to myself, I'm just going to assume there's no FDIC insurance. Like 100%. When I read that, that's really how I read it.
And they say it, and then they say that Genesis is where the money is. So why even have this statement in there other than being a little predatory? It feels a little predatory. Like, why would you leave it out there if you're outwardly saying this money is going to Genesis, which is more a crypto exchange and not an FDIC insured bank?
I think they're better off just leaving this entire language out. Again, 100%. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't want to. I'm not giving legal advice or anything to them or anyone. But I'm just saying, I think for me as a user, I'd prefer not to read that at all.
I agree.
And just assume that that's the risk. That's one of the risks is that you're not FDIC insured, and so your 8% might justify that risk because 8% is pretty nice.
Right.
But you can't say it's like a bank. It is not like a bank. It's not as safe as a bank.
Right. Owen, any or all of that go over your head? Yes, sir.
I like how it was 8% and 250,000. I was like, okay, that's all I remembered.
Like at a bank, you get if a bank defaults, the government will pay you that insured amount so that you're made at least part of your whatever you have is made whole. But and they're trying to say, I guess Gemini is trying to say that they have something similar, like they have the same kind of risk, like they're as risky as a bank, right? They're kind of saying that with that statement, and that's not true because we don't really know how much of that is real, right? That all these caveats don't exist at a bank.
Yeah, and so like if a bank goes out of business and or a bank gets robbed, we'll say, okay, and you had 100,000 at the bank, the federal government has your 100,000 insured. You're going to be made whole. You don't lose your money at a bank. So it's always important at your bank to look at what their insurance is and spreading your money out so that it's protected. So let's say one day after you start doing the selling insurance thing that you're looking to do and you're making a lot of money, when you hit a certain dollar amount, it's wise to spread this money out to other banks. Don't put it all in one place. So you want that money covered just in case. Now, if you're leaving that much money in cash, we'll have a conversation. Like that money needs to be invested. But
But I think the more important thing about that, though, I mean, outside of the FDIC thing and the insurance, is that you can take your dollars and earn 8%. Whereas if you go to a bank and you put your money in a savings account, at best you're getting like a 0.5%, which is a huge difference. Like if you can put your money somewhere and it can be relatively safe and you're going to earn 8%, that's a no-brainer. Like
it would seem
you need to take that money out of your savings account and put it in that opportunity. And I think that's where banks are in trouble because they don't do that. Like if you have the choice between 8% and 0.5%, you're always going to go with 8%. It's a no-brainer. And that's the attractiveness of DeFi
and if
right
you
now.
To add up to that, if you are already investing in crypto, and let's say for me, specifically, I'm investing it, and my wallet is with Gemini. If they go tits up, I lose everything anyway. So it's kind of the same deal. If they get robbed and like if they get robbed, they get hacked or what have you. Well, that's the risk I'm already taking. So I'm just taking more risk if I just put more there. But the 8% on money I'm not really using today, it's kind of nice.
It's really nice.
Yeah,
it's really nice.
I mean, when I'm done with a trade, the money goes back into earn, and then when I'm ready to buy something to trade, I take it out and I just buy another coin, like my ill-fated. Well, I shouldn't say ill-fated because I made money on my sushi trade, but I was lamenting to Royce yesterday about like, hey, like sushi woke up yesterday. I woke up about 7:00 in the morning, our time here. I just dropped my son off to school. I'm like, all right, just made some money. I'm just gonna sell it. because this is about where it kind of topped out, maybe flashed to 15. Well, lo and behold, 2 hours later, it's almost at $16. I was like, son of a bitch. But you know what? It's a good lesson, right? Making money is making money. A profit is a profit. It's
You
like
can't
you're
time
not going to
it.
win it all. You're not
Yeah,
going to
you're
win it
not
all.
gonna win it all. Unless you're Ken.
No, no one wins it all, dude. Everyone
No one
takes.
wins it all.
When you lose money, it just becomes a very expensive education. And
Right.
and it's and then Royce and I both have been, we've been rugged. We bought shit coins that just went to nothing. We've been through it all, right? It's been almost or over a year of this, right? Of just doing DeFi stuff, and it's like we've seen everything and almost everything. I don't want to say everything, but but just a very expensive learning experience. And the thing is, you can't learn that anywhere because unless you've experienced it, you don't really know. You don't know it, right? So like I was kind of joking with Royce, like if we ever started some like DeFi class, whatever. I mean, the stuff we know is, you can't learn that stuff. There's no classes, no professors that can ever teach you this stuff, right? And if we taught a class, we could charge a lot of money. Like people would want to know these things,
Yeah, you gotta learn.
And I think you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, Royce and I kind of talked about that too. It's kind of this thing where like experience is your best teacher in investing. Like Owen, you just started investing yourself into the stock market last year. What was that experience like for you? Positive and negative. What was the worst you felt? What was the greatest you felt?
I think the greatest I felt was the first day. It's just like so exciting because I don't know. I was just really excited. I just wanted to buy a lot of shit. But then I think the worst was like not having that extra funds to like buy more when the dip happened. Mm-hmm. I think that was the worst thing. Because you told me to buy Nvidia again at I think it was like 400 before it split.
Yep. Pre-split 400.
Yeah.
And where is it now?
Yeah. Like 230.
230-ish. So let's say if you didn't split, it'd be at 900.
Yeah.
Right. So, but you caught, but you still, when did you end up buying it?
502 or something.
Yeah. So you almost caught a double.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
That's
really good.
An 80% gain. Like that's huge. So the question becomes, right, when do you sell? Because there's always the challenge. And you look at your holdings, you see what it is. When you look at all your holdings, there's probably one or two stocks that you're holding right now that's probably not a long-term hold, right? The other ones you could go long-term. I mean, if you don't mind disclosing what you have, you can talk about it. There's definitely one that's pretty speculative that if it runs up, I'd be pounding your door like, get out of there, right?
Yeah.
And then there'll be others that goes up. The conversation is, do you think it's going to keep going? Do you believe in the company? How much longer is this going to go? Right. So I already mentioned NVIDIA, and I'll let Ken and Royce jump in, but NVIDIA, I mean, really, they're in everything that's relevant when it comes to semiconductors. And as we've seen in this last 12 months, without semiconductors, things don't go. Like the shortages that are out there in this world, whether it be cars, appliances at one point in time, mining equipment, everything, a lot of it has to do with just a lack of chips, not enough chips out there.
I got a story for you guys, kind of off of Steve's point of not knowing when to sell. Like, how do you know when to sell? Because that's always the biggest question, right?
Difficult.
It's like, it's really difficult. Like, when do you get out? Okay, let me give you this extreme example of one coin that I bought about a couple months ago. And I think I told Royce about this one. I think he's probably hit himself on the head for not buying it. But I had a friend come over and tell me about this token called Million Token. And I had never heard of it. It sounded like a scam to me, okay? He's like, I listened to this guy. His name is Tech Lead. He has a YouTube channel. There's like 1 million people on it. And he's like, can you buy me some of these tokens? He doesn't know how to buy any of this stuff, right? So he's like, can you buy some Million Tokens for me? Is that $1? I'm like, okay, how much you want? He goes, oh, let's give me like 50. I'm like, all right. I'm like, dude, the fee, the Ethereum gas fee is going to be like $30. So I'm like, I can't just buy 30, like, so I was like, you know what, screw it, I'll buy some too, right? Just for the hell of it, right? Because my friend wants to do it. I got him at 30, whatever, fine, or $50 worth, whatever. So I think I got a little bit higher than I was like $1.70 or $1.80 or whatever. It went to 200 in about a week later. A week later, it went to $200 and something dollars. So Eric calls me.
No, was
Yes,
it 200
it went
really?
to $200. So my buddy Eric calls me and says, "Hey, what do we do?" And I'm like,
Sell.
No. He's like,
right.
no, he didn't,
You're right.
he didn't say sell. He said we should buy more. And I'm like, I'm not buying anymore, man. I'm not buying anymore.
Yeah, like
I'm not touching it. Like, we should sell some of it, right? But he said, no, we're gonna wait for 1,000. Okay. He said it's gonna go to 1,000 because I can buy my Tesla when it hits $1,000. Because he wants his $100 or 50 tokens to turn into a Tesla. And I'm like, you're out of your mind, but so I said, if it goes to the same price as Ethereum, I will buy you that Tesla. Okay, I will, because I don't think. Will it go to 18 or I think it was like $2,000? Will it go to 2,000? I'm like, okay, if it goes to $2,000, I'll buy you the Tesla. So I'm like, whatever. Okay, fine, I won't sell it because you don't want to sell it. Fine. So we waited. Of course, it didn't go up anymore. It went down to I think we ultimately sold some around like 100. And then the rest of it just went to like, eventually went back to like almost nothing or whatever. But it's $15. I mean,
right
but
now.
my point is, it's still 100x, and it was only like a couple of weeks. It's still incredible. Yeah, I mean, I didn't get anywhere near that, and we sold a little bit, and we just kept selling the way down, and it came down pretty fast. Like once it hit 200, I think it was like for like an hour or two, it was like a 200, and it went back to 150. And the next day was 100. The next day was 50, and it just like
watching the decline. Watching the decline is the hardest thing to do.
We eventually sold it around like $30 or $40, most of it, and so it's still a great. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to complain about a 30x or 40x, whatever. But I mean, I wish I'd put more money in. Right. Like I wish, but it's pretty good. And all I'm saying is like, you just don't know when to sell, because how would you know if it goes to 200? You're thinking 2,000. You're not thinking I should sell, right?
Well, see, but this is where experience comes in, right? Because we've been through this before,
and I was trying to convince everyone to sell.
If I saw something that spiked from like what it was at, like under $50 before it had that huge run up to $200, I would have been like, oh my god, we need to sell right now.
Yeah.
Because it's capitulating. Because it's such a skyrocketing move. It's look at something like Yearn Financial. When will we see Yearn touch 94,000 again? I was just watching it today. It's meandering in about the 36, 37,000 level, and it seems to have support about 31,000. But like, if you're that guy that may say you had Yearn at 18,000, you had a chance to get out at 90, and you're like, nah, man, this is going to 200,000.
Yeah.
But those people, it exists. I mean, we've all had those thoughts with whatever something else that we've
but
had
Maurice,
in the past.
To your point, it's true. We've seen this, but you know what? We still fall for it sometimes. Like, it's not like hindsight is always 20/20. You can always look back and say we should have done that.
Sure.
It's easy to talk about it, but when you're watching that thing go up to 200, it's very hard to say, you know what? I got to take some money off the table because it's still going up. And it's hard when you're in it.
It's very hard.
It's
very hard.
You're much blinder when you're in it.
It
but
is.
when you're an outsider and you don't own any of it, and you're looking at it and you're going, man, you're crazy, right? But when you actually own some and you're actually like watching it go up, it's very hard to like know, hey, we got to sell, right?
Well,
you got to be very disciplined.
That's the emotional.
There's no feeling. There's no feeling like that in the world. When this thing just shoots up, it's so euphoric. Reason's out the window. And so it's one of those things where in selling stock, I'll go back to stocks a little bit, is there has to be a discipline about it, right? So like Jim Cramer talks about, if you have a double, then what you should do is sell half your position, because then it's all house money. So whatever you lose from there is the profits, not your principal. And if it continues to run, fantastic. If it gives you a chance to get back in, then maybe you can put more money back in. Now, in crypto, that run is so fast. A double is like, it's great. But in crypto, we know, like, we ain't looking at doubles. We're looking at, like, powers of 10.
I mean, look at the Million token. If we had sold that, okay, we bought it. If we averaged at 2 and we sold at 4, sure, that's a double. You made $100, $200.
Right.
That's not interesting, right? I mean, $100, which is cool, but
it's true. It's true. I mean, and that's a perspective. And it's perspective based off how much money you have,
Yeah.
too, right? But I would say even people without that much money, and because I've had these conversations with people that jumped into crypto this year, and they're just buying they're doing the penny stock mentality with it. So they're just buying every cheap coin, hoping one would hit. But as you guys know, there's so many coins out there that, for the most part, will never hit. And if you buy it only because it's cheap, you miss out on runs on all these other things that are running. Like I look at when I jumped into Ethereum, 487. 487 to 3600. Like, yeah, okay, we're good. Like
It's not bad. It's not
yeah,
bad.
been a sharp stick in the eye. And having been in and out of it, where I actually sold all of it at one point in time, and so I'm in at a higher price, but I'm really not. I'm in on using profit money to buy it because I just want to play the ranges because I learned from both of your experiences where I saw Royce ride it all the way to the top and then ride it all the way back down. And I'm like, hell no. Hell no.
It's like a wave.
So that's the perspective I took after I kind of sent Royce that text where I was kind of whining about selling my sushi too early and missing a couple points. It's like, profit is profit.
Yeah, but I will say, going back to what Owen was saying about like not having gunpowder basically to buy in when something dips. I mean, that's a problem that everybody has and goes through, right? And I think you only learn to deal with it by going through it, and you learn that to stagger your buy-ins and always leave yourself gunpowder so that like if something like that does happen, you have ammo on the sidelines to be able to jump in, when you want to. That's what I
There's
learned.
nothing worse than watching your investments go down and not being able to do anything about it because you're all in, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes your best offense is if the story hasn't changed much and it's just getting sold off for whatever reason, somebody got liquidated, or there's some bad headline about the SEC or the Fed chair wanting to do something, which is going to happen off and on for the next 5 or 6 months, and not being able to capitalize on an opportunity is tough. That's why I was saying on my money I use just to trade coins. Once I sell it, I don't immediately look for somewhere to park it to buy something else. I'm going to wait for a good opportunity, so I just shove it back into earn. And at least I'm making some money because I'm gonna buy on a dip, because I mean all we see is these markets, they rise and they dip. What's really encouraging right now is every dip's bought violently. Like Ethereum, when it gets to a 3,000 level, it's violently bought back, and there's a very huge V recovery, a very steep recovery, almost like a flash crash that just gets picked up. You look at the last 2 times in the last couple of weeks where it did that real quick sell-off, it didn't take long at all for it to rebound back to 3,200, mid 3,200s, and it meanders. And then, like you said, right now, it's near 3,600 again, knocking on the door. I really feel like the next move is knocking on the door 4,000 and trying to break through the all-time high.
I think for when you invest in cryptos, you can take a lot of risk early on, because if you don't play with a lot of money, like if you don't start with a lot of money, you can take a lot of chances because it's not a lot of money. But when you have that big win, whatever it is, like a 10x or something that you got in and you got lucky, and like Shiba Inu or something, or Dogecoin, and you got in early, and suddenly your $1,000 whatever turns into like $100,000 or something. I think the game changes. You no longer can your playbook has to change, because if you play that same way with $100,000, it'll disappear real quick,
Right.
and you have to really rethink. Like when you get to a certain scale, you just can't play the game the same way. And you can still play the game, you can still be in cryptos, but you can't invest the same way that you did, like when you had $1,000 versus like $100,000, and I think that's one thing I learned as I kind of got into more and more. Been doing this for about a year now, and it's definitely interesting to think how my mentality has changed, because you can't look at investments the same way. You're now looking at capital preservation. You're not trying to gamble as much.
And, it's one of those things too, right? When you look at your investment strategy, you already in both your cases, Ken and Royce, you guys have already planted some seeds that you're also waiting for it to kind of sprout right now. And so you already put some risk out there where, like Royce, I think you remember me telling me about an investment you made some years ago, and all of a sudden, they told you, hey man, it hit, and you got a great gain off something that you wrote a check for that you assumed was, I'm not sure this is going to go anywhere, but I'm going to take that risk.
Yeah, there's been a couple of that.
Yeah, Royce, we both know very well which ones we're talking about. But yeah, I mean,
so you already put the risk out there. So once you start making the money, and Royce, our conversations all the time are about, hey man, make sure you're taking some profit. Just take some money off the table, because you've been so successful at it, especially in this last year. Your loyalty to the trade has really paid off for you in the last 12 months. But it would be a shame if you put it all on the table, and heck, we're back in the position where we're, pre-COVID.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing that my sister says too, right? Is that there's nothing wrong with taking money off the table, like at any time, like, because you don't really realize those profits until you sell.
Yep.
Like it's
on paper.
Yeah, it's on paper.
I think the things that Royce and I've been looking at more and more is just stuff like the GUSD, where you can take the money that you've made and put it into like something that's lower risk but still gives you a nice return. It may not give you the 10x or 20x or whatever potential, but you're guaranteed a 8%, 9%, 10% investment, and you're not taking any price risk because your tokens or your coins or investments are all in like something stable, right?
Dollar for dollar. And then, if there's enough that you can park away, that's an income. Like if you get to a point where, you have enough to park away in an earn or some kind of product like Gemini Dollar where you get 8.4%, like that's an annual income you could literally live off of and not really have to, and you'll never diminish.
And it doesn't exist anywhere. Like you cannot look anywhere else to get those yields.
Nope.
Like it doesn't exist at banks, bonds, even stocks.
Right.
You're not going to get those kinds of dividends. Just it's only in crypto.
Right. So Owen, here's the example. If you had $2 million and I told you park it in this thing that's 8.4%, you're going to get 168,000 a year doing absolutely nothing. Could you live off 168,000 and be cool? But sometimes you need that perspective, right? Sometimes you got to frame it that way because the temptation is always going to be there. Like, oh, look at that. S just went down. S just went down $1,000. Let me park it in there. Because if it goes back up that 1,000, I'm going to make way more than 8%.
Yeah.
But then the bankability, as long as the rate stays up, of course, that's always a chance that it comes down. The bankability of thinking, man, I'll get 170 grand digging my ass watching football.
Yeah.
Like, nothing terrible about that.
Nothing wrong with that.
After all this conversation, Owen, does this make you want to get into crypto?
It does, 100%.
Not that we're trying to brainwash you or anything, but this was part of the reason why we kept you on, because the perspective of someone that hasn't been in it yet. And I know you've been wanting to because you've asked questions, and I kind of cautioned you. Let me play around with it first a little bit so I can give you a little more advice.
Yeah.
Well, if you have any questions, these two guys are the guys to ask. Like, it's their experience is so invaluable. I've learned so much.
And that's not to say everything we invest in goes up. It's just we've had a lot of experience, and we learned a lot from failing and losing money too. So it's definitely not something. I mean, it's just experience, and I don't mind sharing. I don't think Royce minds sharing that experience with people. If anything, and we want people to get into this while it's still a good opportunity. I think at some point it's not going to be a good opportunity. I think it's going to be like too crazy. Like back in 2017, we were both there at the very peak of the craze, right? The ICO / crypto craze. And, I don't think I would have told people to get in then, at the very peak of it, because it's just so wild, it's so ridiculous. And, there's literally a Ethereum token that says it was like the worthless Ethereum token, and people were buying it, and it's literally telling you it's worthless, but you're still buying it. I mean, that's just insanity, right? And that was what's happening in 2017. But I don't think that's the case today. I don't think, Royce, do you agree with me that it's not like that right now?
You mean in terms of the mania? I mean, I kind of think it's transferred from ICOs to like NFTs and some of these other like meme coins and stuff like that. But like, it's definitely more mature. Like the industry as a whole is more mature. But I think you're right. I mean, for me, like crypto is the best opportunity that you have today to make a lot of money. It's also very liquid, and your time horizon is very short. And I don't know how long it's going to be like that. Like this might be, one of the last times that it'll be that way, before institutions come in and all this big money comes in and kind of, evens that stuff out. I mean, we're still really early. I mean, if you think about all the people that are involved in crypto right now, it's like a small subset of the population that's involved in financial services. And so, it's a great opportunity right now. I just don't know how long it'll.
Yeah, and we don't know how big it's going to get, right? Like, I mean, I just heard today AMC is taking, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash as payment for movie tickets, right?
They got to do something to increase profit. They got a lot of debt to pay back. All the stock, all the extra offerings that they've done, based off of the run up that that they got from the Reddit crowd. They still got to pay these things back. They're paying rates on all this kind of stuff, because they diluted some things because they did some bond offerings, not just selling.
Oh, I think this is a great publicity of something, and it might help them get more users, and getting a nice hoard of of reserves in crypto is a good thing, not a bad thing, especially right now. That asset, the more like look at Overstock, right? Their whole business model changed. I mean, they were doing online, they're doing selling overstocked supplies to people online, and now they're not doing really that much anymore of that. They're just a crypto company now. And look how much more they're worth, right? A lot of these companies pivoted to do crypto stuff almost exclusively, and they've all benefited. And you just wonder how many more companies are going to make this pivot, right? I mean, Tesla did to some extent, right? To start taking, well, I don't know if they don't take it anymore, but they at one point were taking Bitcoin as payment for Teslas. And a lot of companies like PayPal and Twitter and Square, and they're all I think it's just a matter of time before more and more people kind of it becomes mainstream and people adopt it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you see so much more adoption, and I feel like we'll get to a point in the adoption where what you guys are alluding to, where the best of times we might not see again once we get to that point. Once we figure out the regulation, once Yellen and SEC and everybody kind of figure out how they want to deal with DeFi, and because DeFi looks like it's square on their targets right there. They have their sights set on DeFi right now. And as far as how to regulate it, and what they're going to do because of the the potential harm to the people that are investing in there, because it's like buying stocks on margin. Like Owen, we've talked about that. Like when you're short money, it's tempting to go margin your bank your stock account, in other words, you're borrowing money from the brokerage and paying about, I think right now it's about 11% on that money you owe. But if that stock goes down 50%, they're going to come calling for that money. And a lot of us learned from that experience during all the bubbles we were in, whether it was the .com bubble or when the housing crisis hit and everybody was defaulting on everything. So these are all the stories to the caution before you guys, get into, especially the younger group like you, get into things, because the mania of making money fast is so contagious. Like you heard it, you saw it all. When people were buying AMC or buying GameStop, it was insane, but there was no fundamental story behind these guys to support those prices. It's so funny because I'd rather be in crypto than be in those things and run up in crypto. If I'm going to take that chance, I'm not going to rely on these guys that are like saying, hold the line over Twitter and Reddit, and then they dig out and you better get out as fast as you can, because they're essentially using you to put the price up.
I think the term you use here is exit liquidity. You become someone else's exit liquidity because you're holding.
You become
their exit liquidity. That's what you become, because you're holding that liquidity while they're getting out, right? So you're the exit liquidity. That's what you are, and that's what you don't want to be, right, in the crypto space or anywhere really.
That's a hard thing to figure out, though. Is like, when's the right time to get out, right?
I think Royce and I, and we have this other friend of ours that we talk about with cryptos a lot, and he's also kind of pretty heavy into cryptos, and he keeps telling us by the end of the year, Ethereum is going to be 10K. And he sounded pretty sure, Like he wasn't just joking. He sounded to me like he was serious about 10K, and
I think he's half joking, but
I don't know. I took it pretty. I mean, we both know him pretty well. I mean, you're right. He might be joking, but with the way he said it, he sounded pretty convinced. We should hold, and he so refuses to sell any of his Ethereum because he thinks it's going to get to 10K at the end of the year. So you just leave money on the table if you sell down.
I think Royce and I talked about this. If it does skyrocket to something like 10, we're selling, or I'm selling.
Oh,
And I'll wait for the drop
selling.
to buy back in, because we saw it when it went to 4,000. When it just ran its butt up to about 4,300, it dropped like a rock, because at some point in time that run up was so insane.
yeah,
You know?
whenever there's run-ups like that, it's probably a good time to sell. To be honest with you, because that's not natural growth, right? Like
It's not sustainable.
something else.
But really, none of it really
That's
is.
sustainable.
Yeah, it's not sustainable.
And Royce and I both talked about kind of like
Yeah.
the Ethereum. I think yours, you pointed this out. Maybe Ethereum's going to make that run to 20K like Bitcoin did back in 2017. Like it's kind of trending like that, where you're starting to see kind of the building the base of at 3K, this base of investments that just kind of like slowly building, and then you get the big push at the end of the year. And so you're right, Royce. You told me that.
Yeah, that's what I read an article where some guy was saying that it'll like follow a similar path to Bitcoin. And if you remember in 2017, Bitcoin started the year under
Yeah, it
1K,
did.
and it was at 1K, and it kind of slowly went up throughout the year. I think it started November around 10K, and then like at the end of the year, it just had this huge run up.
Yeah.
To
My
20K.
thesis on that about how we get there, again, just purely speculation and just my personal thoughts. I'm not investment advice or anything. Is that I think I look at the stablecoin growth. I think it's Royce. You sent me an article today. It was $120 billion, right? There's $120 billion of
yep.
stablecoins now, and people have. I think back in May, where there was a big crash in cryptos in May, a lot of that money went into stablecoins, and it stayed in stablecoins. And
Do you know what that is? No, stablecoin.
so stablecoins are basically tokens that are, I guess, one for one backed by a dollar, or ideally, in theory, basically worth $1. Each token's worth $1, and it's backed by various assets. Sometimes it's some cash, some corporate bonds or whatever. There's some escrow with a bunch of funds in it that people deposit money and they get $1 for a token. So there's these stable coins that are there's a bunch of different ones like USDT. There's USDC. That's Coinbase. There's all sorts of stable coins out there. DAI, and the sum of all that is $120 billion. And I think at some point that money is going to go back into buying cryptos, right? Right. I mean, it's sitting in stable coins right now, but I think, maybe it's earning good yield right now. Maybe people are putting it into GUSD to earn that 8%. Maybe they're putting in USDC to earn that 4%, or just in DeFi in general. But I think at some point that money is going to go back into the market, and that's going to take us to potentially 10K. Like I think that's how we get there if we get there, because that stablecoin sitting there, people aren't withdrawing it, turning into US dollars and putting in their bank accounts. The fact that it's grown to $120 billion shows you that it's not coming out of cryptos. It's still in cryptos.
So that's that 8% thing that I was talking
That's
about.
one of the
Gemini dollars.
that's a stable coin, and it's giving you yield. And I think a lot of people are going to be tempted to jump to put their money in and play.
They're sitting and waiting. Right. They're laying in the weeds, basically, waiting for their time to probably reassert that money in the crypto market. And in many ways, you want to be ahead of the crowd would be my guess, before that money gets deployed again. Because once that money gets deployed, it's going to happen fast. And that's the run-up. And that's where you become someone's profit.
I mean, I would,
you better get out.
I would be more concerned if a lot of that if all that stable coins went out of the market and people redeemed them, and you saw the stable coin like decline in the total market cap, like people redeeming their their tethers to get dollars back, and people were redeeming their USDCs to get dollars back, then I would be, if that stable coin market was shrinking, I'd be very concerned. because then I know that people are pulling their money out of cryptos completely, right? But that's not what's happened, right? Even after the big crash in May, it just went into stablecoins. And in fact, people are putting more money into stablecoins. So when does that stablecoins go back in, right? Like I guess it could sit there for a while, but the fact that they're there just means there's just a bunch of dry powder out there waiting to get back into market. But that's my take on it. Again, my personal take on it. I don't know. Obviously, I mean, Royce, you sent me the article today, and that's just kind of what I thought about.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do think it is positive for crypto in general. But I do think a part of that is people that are taking their dollars, they're converting it to stable coins, and then earning yield on it, right? Like the 8% from Gemini, or like 10% or 3% or whatever from Aave or Compound, something like that. Like I think that's part of it too, and that's a good thing for crypto. More people using it, and it's a no-brainer. Like you don't want to have that in the bank.
Right, it's the money sitting on the sideline. Really, when you look at it, in the stock market, they always talk about the money on the sideline. The money that's not being invested, and when that money gets invested, how that makes a run in the stock market. I mean, I think it's pretty sound logic to think that that 120 billion. I mean, heck, even if half of that gets deployed, what kind of run does that make?
I mean, if you think of crypto as like a big casino, which it kind of is, it's stock market too, and you have all these chips, people with tons of chips, right? They're not playing blackjack or roulette or anything, but they're just holding a ton of chips, and they're putting their cash in to get more chips, and they're just holding hordes of chips and stacks and stacks of chips. What do you think they're going to do eventually? They're going to gamble. Like, right? It's boring sitting in the casino not playing something, right?
Hey, if you're standing in the casino with chips, you can only stand there long enough before
paying you to be in the casino. Free buffets 100%. And free drinks, open bar. You're going to get so bored at some point. You're going to say, you know what? It's great getting all those free meals and stuff, but
hey, that's like playing Pai Gow with Royce. After about 3 hands, you get so bored that like all the black chips just go in one hand. Like I'm sitting there, I just want to drink, so I'm just betting with greens. All of a sudden, all this black comes out. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm bored. Boom, puts it down.
But if you're watching all these other guys winning on the blackjack table, they're going on a run. The dealer's busting. Don't you want? You're holding all these chips. You're like, maybe I could start playing a hand or two. I think that's what's going to happen in cryptos. You're like, you got all these guys holding chips. You got all these tables going. They're all making money. Like all these tables are paying people, right?
I think the better analogy might be the crap table, because
right.
The crap table, the juice on a crap table, like when a crap table is hopping, there's nothing like playing on a hot crap table.
Yeah.
There's nothing like the exuberance and the energy that comes off a hot crap table.
Yeah. No,
and you just get swept away. So let's say you're only playing one come bet and you're pass line, and everyone's throwing numbers. They're throwing numbers. At some point, you're like, dude, all the way across. You just drop a whole bunch of chips.
And that's the minute you throw a 7.
Right? I mean, and then boom, 7 comes out.
I've been there, I've done that.
But you get so we've all done it.
We've all been there.
Like you have these thoughts on the crap table. You're like, I should take somebody's bets down. You already pressed them up to where you want to. You're collecting yield, basically, right? It's coming in. And I go, I should just take these off because I got to get 10 more numbers to get all this money back compared to if a 7 comes out now. Like, you think about it. If you pressed everything up on a crap table, there's a point where you should just say it. Just take all these bets back because you got to hit these numbers so many times to get all that money back eventually. But that's not
what happened in May. I think that's what happened in May. All these people – that's happened. That big crash was May, where people took their chips off the table, but they still have them. They haven't. Mm-hmm. They haven't gone to the cashier and cashed them out. They're just holding them. They haven't left the casino. They're still there, and they're walking around drinking their free drinks, right?
Hands in their pocket, looking at every table, sipping their drink.
Did you see that TikTok video where that guy was trying to pick up a girl at the bar, and he was like, "Hey, look at my bank account. It's like his Wells Fargo account." And he had like $82,000 in it, and she was like, "No, I don't need shit in money."
Really? That's all scripted, though, man. That's scripted. That's not real.
I mean, maybe. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, there's so many of those videos that are scripted. It's like the prank videos, it's all scripted.
But anyways, I do think if we get to 10K, that has to happen. People have to get off their asses, get off the sidelines, start depositing those chips in those craps tables or on the roulette table or whatever. And I think we get there. I think we get there if that happens.
I think if we take out the all-time high, I think that's when it'll happen. Because people would be like, oh my God, it's going to break out. Like 10's going to happen.
I think so.
Yeah.
And that's what'll take it to 10.
I think at some point it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy too, right? I do think that a lot of people are, have that as a target. So I have a question for you guys, actually. Do you think now's the time to get in?
Hey, let's start with Owen on this one because he's the only one not in.
I was going to ask you.
Was it?
Because I can feel the vibe coming through the screen right now that he's like, yeah, I got to get in on this stuff already.
I was asking for him because, like I talked to some people too, right? And I'm like, hey, have you guys gotten to crypto? At this point in, this year, a lot of the coins have had a pretty big run up. Ethereum's at, 3,500. Compared to where it started the year, I think what Steve probably got in, it was like 400, like he was saying. I think in the beginning of the year, it's probably around there too.
Was around 11. It kind of broke 1,000. It was in that high sevens, and it quickly broke the 1,000 within January. Yeah, I want to say it was like 780 or something like that at the beginning of the year of 2021.
Yeah, and Bitcoin's run up. It's like 48K now. Went up to 60K. I mean, like a lot of these coins have had these big runs, and they're still close to their all-time high too, which a lot of them hit in May. So I guess my question is that, like, if you weren't in crypto right now, would you get in at this point? Because I think that's a good question to ask.
Okay, if I were to answer that question, the only thing I would buy is ETH, and it's not just because we're biased. It's the one that has the strongest chart. Everything's making higher lows or lower highs, I should say. So Compound, we'll use that as an example. Its high was 900 something. Right now, every time it makes a run, it can't break 525 and then it breaks down. So in this last run, just a few days ago, it peaked at about 518, 520, and it dumped to below 400. That's a straight up rejection that's a straight rejection to try to move higher. So it can't break through these resistance points. And Aave's not much different. I think their high is about 700 or high 600s. It gets to about mid fours and it breaks down. Sushi goes to, I think it was 23 was the high. It gets to about where it is now and it breaks down. The only one that doesn't break down, because Bitcoin included, breaks down. Bitcoin's nowhere near the high it touched in May. And every time it tries to break through that 49,700, it'll break through and break back down in about a day or two. It can't hold it. Like right now, it's trying to make a run again. And it's breaking down. The only one that doesn't break down is ETH. As far as the more well-known coins. Like Litecoin's nowhere near what it was running up to before. It hits this 180, 200 level and it's like it gets rejected. So I don't know, kind of like we talked about before. I would limp in. I definitely wouldn't be going balls out in it right now. If I had $5,000, let's say to start, I probably would only buy half. And I wouldn't even buy a whole ETH. I'd probably just buy half, or I'd probably just put 2,500 in. And then don't look at it as whole ETH, just look at it as money invested. And then read and deploy the rest of that money later, or if it goes down, or enjoy the ride if it goes up.
Yeah, you make a really good point on the chart. It's very true. I've seen what you described with a lot of these other altcoins, where they can't break through because they're just big sellers, just waiting to sell out there.
Right.
Meaning that they don't think it's valued higher than that, right? And they want to take their money and turn it back into ETH, right, or whatever stable coins. Usually, when you see these big guys sell, they usually sell for ETH, which is interesting because like they want to have ETH, right? They rather have ETH than whether it's Uniswap or
Correct.
or Sushi or whatever. They're
Right.
trying to keep their money in ETH,
Right.
which is why I think you're seeing such strength in ETH, because as you're seeing all these other altcoins reaching highs but then getting rejected, that money's going back into ETH. That's what it seems like to me too.
And it's creating a lot of support for ETH at the current price, which again I see why you would want to keep a large, some core position of it in ETH.
ETH almost feels like Apple in a stock account. Like it's just a core position now, because it's showing so much strength. Or you just kind of leave it in your account and you're like, oh, whatever, I'll play with the rest of the money. Because as ETH goes, there's no parallel move in the altcoins. Like
Yeah, and the thing is,
it was such a parallel.
There's still things happening with ETH too. I mean, end of this year, early next year, there's still the ETH 2.0, the 1.5 merge, where the whole chain goes to proof of stake. So that's going to be really interesting, because that will reduce the inflation rate dramatically. It'll go from whatever, I don't know what it's at now, maybe 2% or 3% down to like under 1%. So then you're going to have even less ETH out there for mining and so forth.
We just went over Owen's head again.
It's just basically just an improvement in
He's being good. He's being good, though. He's like nodding his head, like he's doing good there.
It's just an upgrade to the protocol that's happening in at the end of the year / early next year. That's going to increase the speed, and basically the network will improve. Software is going to be upgraded, and issuance is going to improve. So there's some good stuff happening for ETH, I think, towards the end of the year and early next year. And I think it's going to build. Maybe that's when we get to 10K. Maybe our friend is right, and again, it seems far-fetched right now, because that would mean it would have to triple from where it is right now. But again, as we see in crypto, a triple is nothing. I mean, that doesn't faze me.
Yeah, it happens.
It does.
It happens, yeah. For me, the biggest thing I think is time horizon. Like, if your time horizon is long, you're probably okay putting money in ETH now, because with all the things that are happening on the platform, with DeFi, with NFTs, all this other stuff, applications. I think if you're looking for like years out, you're probably going to be okay. But in the short term, like looking for the end of this year or maybe even 2 years, I think that becomes a little bit more, iffy, because, there's all of these cycles in crypto, right? At least right now, because it's so early and it's so volatile. I think that's where a lot of the risk is. But if your time horizon is longer, then I think it couldn't hurt to put money into ETH.
And another thing I want to point out is just the competitors. I mean, people are saying, well, there's going to be ETH competitors, and Royce and I talked about Solana recently, and a couple of days ago, their entire blockchain went down. The whole network went down, so nobody could make any transactions for like almost an entire day, and even after.
And the price,
but right? I mean, just it goes to show how crappy their competitors are. When have you heard of a blockchain going down? I mean, how is that decentralized? It's not a blockchain. It's like a database. Like, databases go down. Like that's not a blockchain.
Yeah.
Like, Royce, can you give some background of the price movement of Solana to Owen, about like how everyone got excited that there was this competitor that was getting more, more and more buyers, and theoretically more people using their network. Like, what was that price action like in the last 2 weeks? Because we talked about it a lot when you were here in Hawaii.
Yeah, so I can tell you, like, Solana started off the month around $40, and basically at its high point, I think it was around $200.
I think I actually sold a little bit at 210. I sold at the peak. I didn't have that much. I just had a little bit, but it went to 210.
Yeah. So that was in this past month, and like honestly, a lot of alternative blockchains have been getting a lot of investment and hype, I think, this past month. But kind of like Ken was saying, I think what this Solana issue shows you is that it's complex. Building a blockchain and building a platform is complex, and to be able to think that these new platforms that have all these promises that they're going to replace ETH or they're going to be better than ETH, time will tell. But it's a complex problem, and it's not easy to solve. And that the thing that
It
ETH has
also
going for it is
confirms
that it's been running
it
for
also confirms that ETH is best in breed.
it's been running for years, right? And
Now, the two biggest
Go ahead.
competitors to ETH are Binance Smart Chain and Solana, right? Like, at least, well, there's other ones, Matic. I guess there's Matic and Avalanche, I guess. But
Avalanche, yeah. I mean, there's a ton of.
But I think the biggest ones are Binance Smart Chain, and I think Solana is one of the biggest ones now. But it just shows you how far behind they still are. I mean, Binance Smart Chain has what, 21 nodes? Is that I think I don't want to be misquoted, but I think it's like 21 nodes out there.
I'm not sure.
It's super centralized. It's basically 21 machines running the whole network, and then
there's two, right? So like there's that Binance Smart Chain, and there's there's BSC, and then there's the Binance, the other chain that they have. So BSC is
right. And there's 21 nodes running it. It's got huge activity on it, but there's only 21 machines running the whole thing, so it's super centralized. And then you have Solana, which had about, I think, 600 nodes or something like that. And if you look at Ethereum,
it has
Ethereum has, I think Ethereum 2 right now has about 200,000 validators. So it shows you like how different these networks are. And the thing is, Ethereum's been battle tested. I mean, they've had 5 years of usage and people attacking it. You know, it's been through a lot. You know, it's been hacked. It's been people have been trying to attack it, but it's still kicking. And you can't just overnight come up with a competitor that's going to kill it. And I think that's what Solana's, the episode with Solana basically showed you how far behind a lot of these networks still are.
Mm-hmm. So let's redirect this conversation to Owen. Pose that question to you now. After hearing all that, everything we talked about, if theoretically you were to buy today, what would you buy?
Ethereum. I mean, my little brother just bought $100 worth, and he's made just as much as me in the crypto market and the stock market. So yeah.
So my advice to you would be, if you do want to do this, start your Gemini account sooner than later, because it takes a while for them to approve your account. It can take up to a couple weeks for them to say, yeah, you're okay to buy. They can just be that backed up in starting accounts right now. In the meantime, it becomes this thing about saving your money, so that you can use it to make money. And ask yourself how much you want to spend. You're a young guy. Like, we were all young guys at one point in time. We blew the fuck out of money in the 20s. Shit. We did stupid shit with our 20s, 100%. Somebody on this panel became a professional figure poker player at one time.
Oh my gosh.
So, but you ask yourself how much you want to try and let it grow. And of course, you got to have your fun. You got to live. You're young. But the more you let grow now, the more fun you can have later. So it's just this thing where you ask yourself kind of where it is. How is it you want to approach all this stuff?
Right.
Yeah, I think that's the hard part when you're young, right? But for me, like my philosophy now is that, like, any dollar that I have, it should be working to earn something else. And I think that's the same philosophy that Ken has as well. Mm-hmm. And, that's one of the reasons why we're always looking for things that are going to earn us, yield in crypto, or, earn us money in other ways, like in other investments or companies.
I think Royce hit it on the head there. I mean, I think almost every single one of our crypto investments are earning us some type of yield, almost every single one. And if there is something I'm holding that I'm not getting yield on, it's probably one of the first things I want to sell, because I don't want to hold on to something that's not going to give me something back for holding it. And I think it's an approach that all crypto, especially DeFi investors, should all be focused on is, if you're holding something and not getting something back, that is not a good long-term hold. You should not be holding that. Even my Ethereum, I'm holding it and I'm getting some yield out of it. So you should be doing that.
What are you getting? What are you getting for yours? What are you getting for yours on your platform? Because on Gemini, it's like 2.4%.
I'm a little bit different. And again, not financial advice. I don't want to steer people the wrong way.
Yeah.
It's complicated what I'm doing. So
Yeah, it's complicated.
I think it's going to go over a lot of people's heads on, especially people listening to this, because
You said essentially, are you letting somebody lend your money out so you get some yield?
I'm
basically
supplying
the trend?
liquidity. I'm supplying liquidity on Aave, and I think I'm getting paid like 0.3% or something. But I'm taking a loan out with that collateral, and that loan is costing me about 3.8 or 9%. So
It's not
it's not high. So, and then I'm taking that and I'm converting those stable coins. I think I'm taking out like DAI or USDC, and I'm selling that to buy euros. And I'm
right.
so I'm taking my euros and depositing them on Curve to earn 40%. So I'm taking currency risk. I'm taking a currency risk of US dollars to euros, which again, it doesn't fluctuate too much.
Right.
It's relatively stable. It will go up and up down a little bit. You might actually make money depending on
the big moves in. Yeah, the big moves in already in those.
But you're getting 40%. Right? So I'm basically making 40 minus whatever interest.
Yeah. So net you're about 30. Net you're about 35%.
So I'm holding Ethereum.
That's freaking amazing. That's amazing.
Keep in mind, I'm not leveraging 100% of my Ethereum, so it's not quite 35% because I'm not leveraging 100%. I think my LTV is like 60 or whatever, 65%. So I'm not taking out the entire. I'm not crazy taking out like 80% LTV loan.
So on that note, let's take that moment to kind of pivot, since Ken is talking about him. You're doing well with his money. I hear you're actually making it over to this neck of the woods pretty soon.
I am. I'm coming to visit you, man. And you too, maybe.
That's happening. Like, are you? You're staying up in Turtle Bay?
Stay there for a few days with my family.
Where are you going to be? You're going to be at the Ocean Villas, or are you doing the bungalows? What are you doing?
I'm doing the bungalows. I think I'm not even sure. Actually, I have to go check. Because it's been a long time. I had to cancel that thing and then I had to rebook it. So I don't know exactly where I am anymore. But I think I'm going to be near Turtle Bay. And I should, if you're around, man, I'd love to meet up with you.
Oh no, I'll
we'll get grab a drink somewhere.
Wait, when?
I'm
when was that again?
Around October. You gonna be around? You gonna be there, Royce?
October.
We should do a little in-person podcast.
Wait. What we need to know is okay. So that plan doesn't work because when Royce was here, we didn't podcast one shit. So we're too busy eating, golfing, drinking.
Royce gave me
we all
dude.
golf,
Royce gave me this awesome list of things that I need to do in Hawaii that he compiled as a local. So I've done all the stuff that the touristy stuff I've done, but he gave me a list of things that not all tourists will do. So I have that. I'm gonna go check it out.
Well, it's about the food. To be quite honest, like when you come to Hawaii, it's about the food. It's about going out and eating.
Give me a lot of food suggestions.
Yeah, that's the best way to enjoy some of the culture here. Is really the food.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
It's not about being fancy either or anything. It's just about knowing where to get what.
Yeah,
like where not to get a poke bowl, where not to get a poke bowl, and where to get a poke bowl.
For any food is Steve's house.
Steve's house.
And that is true.
Really, he makes a kick-ass poke bowl. That's awesome.
Dude, we can do anything, man. We can do anything. We can do anything. It'll be in my front yard, and we'll just be. Just don't sleep in front of us because we kind of
no.
You might wake up with strawberry belts on your nose or up your nose or down your shirt.
Horrible.
But when in October are you going to be here? Because I'm going to be up there. I'm going to be in LA.
Oh, really? No, it'll be late October. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's true. Maybe we should stop by. He's gonna be up here October.
Oh, dude, we should meet up. Yeah. Let's do that.
But we're going to Vegas.
Okay.
We got a 36-hour.
Just throw that out there.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, we have a 36-hour spin.
I might join you guys in Vegas if it's early October. I might be able to get out.
Oh yeah.
Done. Yeah, this is fun.
You want to come to Monday Night Football with us too when we come back?
I wonder if we're gonna get tickets.
Owen,
No,
Let's
it's-
get tickets to the game.
Owen's
To
got
the Raiders game.
Chargers. What's the Chargers Raiders game? It's the Chargers. Right now, the tickets are only like $150.
There's tickets.
I want to check out the stadium because we were watching it
Yeah,
being constructed, right, Royce? We were out there.
Dude, come with us to the game.
Yeah,
Come with us to the
it's
game.
fun.
I saw it. I saw it
Chargers
every day.
I'll sit all the way to
Yeah,
the
I just
top.
want to check out
don't
the stadium.
care.
I want to see what
But,
it looks
you know,
like.
Well, I kind of want to sit high anyway, so you can see all the splits. Like
Yeah, no,
in
it's-
some
it's
ways,
nice.
like being near the
It's like-
field, you don't see everything. You know, this is the football. This is the football geek side of me. Like I don't care. I'll sit at the very top because I can see
Wow.
everything. I can see everything develop. It's way more fun.
That's cool.
You can read the defense, right? You go from the safeties.
Yeah, and it's just cheap as hell.
Exactly.
So you know, there's that. More money for beer.
It's cool.
So
Yeah. Hey, Owen, I just want to let you know that all I learned about football was from playing Madden.
It's amazing how good those simulators are, though. It really is. Blows my mind.
Let's just
it's
say
all based
a
on
lot harder than
probabilities, right?
Madden.
How all their ratings.
I'm sure it is.
Let's just say it's a lot harder than Madden. When you have a guy 360 pounds running at you, can run a 4.840, or when you have a guy like Montez Sweat who's coming at you and he's 6'8",
Oh, my
260,
goodness.
running a 4.41.
Worst
Yeah, I'm
hit
glad I
you
don't
ever
have to
took.
worry about that.
What's the worst hit you ever took, Owen? Playing
Playing
quarterback. in high
Farrington,
school?
there's two. Same year. Oh, well, one was my freshman year. I was playing quarterback. A drop back, step up in the pocket, straight linebacker to my side.
Ouch.
That's playing Koku varsity when they were still legit. Second time was against Farrington. It's like first or second quarter. By the way, I got sacked 7 times that game.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
So Braden Feoko, who plays for the Chargers, I don't know
Uh-huh.
if he made the squad, but him and 2 other guys, all averaging about 280, 300, fell on me, and I fell on the ball. I just
You did that.
That's the worst feeling in the world, man. Of getting the wind knocked out of you.
yeah, that is the worst.
Dude, that's like, remember this is for the older guys. Remember Terminator 2 when they visited the lab and the guy had to drop the bomb and he was doing that weird breathing when he was about to die, where he was like,
yeah.
yeah, that's what it looks like when I run on the field and have to respond to somebody with their like wind knocked out of them. It's the weirdest sound ever. It's this high pitched like hey, and the look of fear in the eyes of the person like they are scared shitless. Like their eyes are always wide open and they're making this weird noise like they're trying to talk, but all comes out this high pitched noise out of their mouth.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do. Like you just sit there and try to keep them calm and let the muscle spasm go away.
I think stingers are the worst, though.
Oh
That
man,
neck
that
stinger.
arm just gets heavy. Suddenly you don't feel like you still got your arm on you at times, or it's crazy.
I'm glad I never played football.
That's a nerve thing?
Yep.
Yeah.
Arguably, I think I would have told you definitely back in my younger days when I started as an athletic trainer.
Yeah.
Now I probably would add more to the story than I used to tell people about why a stinger happens and why it reoccurs right away if you go back in the game without getting treated. And I think now in things that I do now, I look at stingers and I say, you know what, there's probably other things I would have done to treat them, and maybe I think there's a chance that the reoccurrence, that immediate reoccurrence, because one of the biggest fears of stingers is if you send someone right back in the game, they get hit one more time, stinger again.
Yeah.
The question is whether or not that's avoidable and they can go back in the game, and I think maybe. And it's stuff that we'll have to research and do, but it's just kind of one of those things where things evolve. But yeah, man, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy the things that happen in a football game, like things I've seen covering football games as an athletic trainer. Like it's crazy.
Well, didn't someone break their leg tonight?
Yep. Our team captain.
Sorry to
guard.
bring that up.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. They moved him from center to guard, so how good really is he? Come on.
Oh, the Giants, yeah.
But no, seriously, that sucks. I mean, It sucks for all those guys because it's their livelihood. These guys, and you never know how well they come back. I mean, I watched the TED talk that Alex Smith just did this summer, and that leg is fucked up.
Well, you could see it in Saquon tonight.
It doesn't
His
look the
knee's going
same.
100%.
It's not. It's too soon.
There
It's
was
too
one.
soon.
He had a hole and he just tripped, or
He
looked like
did.
his leg gave out.
Right.
How long has it been for Saquon now?
Week 2.
Wasn't it week 3 last year? Week 2, week 3 last year?
It was week 2.
Yeah. Oh, that's
So
right.
it's not even a year yet.
No.
Yeah, and he was trying to go full speed on it for probably the last 2 months, probably. So.
Yeah, that's tough. It's
it takes.
It takes a while.
As long as he doesn't get like too dinged up in the next 4 to 5 weeks, it'll start looking like him by about week 7.
Well, that just
7,
shows you how crazy, like, how freakish Adrian Peterson is.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, that dude is.
I mean, that guy's a
torn ACL.
Yeah, he's a freak of nature, man.
The torn ACL thing, like it's the scar tissue, right, that builds up. You have to break that up. It's the muscle that you need to rebuild too, right, around on your leg because it atrophies so much, and then like it's the nerves inside the knee that you lose the ability to tell where it is in space and like the feeling. It's a weird thing.
Yeah, it takes a while. It just takes a while for everything around it to tension back the way it needs to, and then you think about neurologically. You look at how well your fast twitch muscle fibers really, how well are they fully recovered? How well are they firing? And then just the maturity around the graft, the bone around the graft, how well that heals and how much time it needs. So for a while, because of Adrian Peterson, a lot of the timetables around ACLs like really got fast, and people were kind of starting to come back in 6 months, 7 months. The problem is all the studies showed that they all just re-injured it because they
I think that guy was just special.
It's an exception to the rule.
Yeah, he's just special.
I think when I had my ACL surgery, I made a goal that 1 year after surgery, I was going to run a marathon. And, my doc trusted me to kind of progress myself a lot. So by 3 months, I was running. And I was running and I made it to my marathon. But, when I ran the marathon, my foot just had so much issues with whatever compensation I still had 1 year later, because I was training for 9 months at that point in time, post an ACL surgery. Like, so when I look back, I said I know exactly why I had that foot pain, but I just had this goal and I was going to hit it, and I knew I wasn't going to really do much with my knee the rest of my life. So if it didn't really come back 100%, just wanted to get that.
Would you guys let your kids play like serious football?
One thing I will say about football is something like flag when they're younger. I have no problem with them playing that stuff because there's so much benefit from playing a team sport like that, where you have to learn anticipation, you have to learn how to work with each other, and the skills that come with it, the type of running you do, and you can say the same for soccer and all those type of things. But I really think football is just heading in a spot where the kids that want to play football are going to play, and then there's going to be a lot of kids that would have played in the past they just won't play. I think you're going to see some places where the turnout for football will continue to decline because there will be parents that were like me. And then you have the other parents; they're totally fine with their 7-year-old playing tackle football. So, the economy will always be there, but I would guess participation is going to continue to see a decline.
Well, nowadays too, right? A lot of people are going on that pylon or 7-on-7 route, and people are getting scholarships from that. Like they don't play they don't play a snap of high school football, and they get college shots.
Yep.
Wow.
Because of the way football is now, because of how pass heavy football is right now, if you're good in your 7-on-7 skelly drills, and you show the skill to run routes, and as a quarterback you can be on time and anticipate, they think they will teach you the rest. And they could arguably be right. But what you can't teach is your ability to take a hit. That's the welcome to the NFL moment when you
Yeah.
When in the non
Football.
707 drill, you come
Yeah.
across the middle, and that middle linebacker is ready to leg you up.
There's just a welcome to football moment, right? You know what I mean?
Yep,
Like when a
absolutely.
quarterback is in the pocket feeling out a defensive line, like that's not a skill you can teach. That's all instinct,
Survival.
100%, or like a safety, yeah, or a
There-
safety, just knowing that he's getting looked off and can just have discipline to just stay in the middle of the field. I mean, that's all just that's instinct. That's what it comes from playing tackle football.
At some point, you got to step into the fire. Like if you're gonna play it at a high level, you're gonna play at a high level, like you gotta. I don't see how you can really succeed without having that experience. To Owen's point, if you play quarterback and you don't know what it's like to crawl up in a pocket and know how to feel the pressure,
Yeah.
I could only imagine that'd be pretty hard to develop in a guy. But who knows? If you go to a really great program,
Responding to your
Yeah.
question, if I would let my kid, I mean, like, I wouldn't want, like, I don't have kids. I don't plan on having kids in the any near future. But
thank God.
Steve.
but I mean, like,
No, they're too young.
I would not force him into anything, or I would actually discourage it. Have the kid be sport
Interesting.
basketball or
Interesting.
soccer. It's just because, I mean, like, I've seen what it can do to a person. I mean, not only professionally wise, but like personally, and like it definitely takes a toll on you. But I mean, it gives you a mental toughness that no other sport can teach you. Like my little brother was almost forced into it, but he never did, and I can just tell it gave me a mental edge in baseball and basketball, and just in life in general. That you're mentally more tough than a lot of other people just because of that. Like what you have to go through is some crazy crap. Like just in practice.
Yeah, we're not even talking about the physical. We're not even talking about the
Yeah.
physical grind of taking a hit.
Yeah.
It's that plus you got to keep pushing. It's so different from another.
Like trial by fire. Like if what doesn't kill you make you stronger, kind of thing. Wow.
Yeah. Because it's like the weak you can. It's very easily. You're very easy to be able to like weed out the weak and see who's mentally tough on the field. Like even from coaching, like just say it's a different generation from even when I was playing 5 years ago.
And that's an early 20-year-old saying
Wow.
it's different already. But I will echo that sentiment because having worked with youth athletes for over the last 20 plus years, like it's just a different athlete. It's a different athlete in 2001, 2002 versus the athlete in 2021. It's just different.
It's a
I'm not
different
gonna say
world,
better or
man.
worse. It's just different.
Mm-hmm.
Different world.
And I was just playing high school football for like 5 years ago, and now I'm coaching JV football and varsity. And just tell you straight up, it's it's not the same. Like the kids just don't respect the game, and they don't have respect for each other. Like I guess it's cool nowadays to put each other down.
Wow. Jeez, that really what's going on?
I've learned that's
Wow.
a good thing.
That's what he's seeing. I mean, we'll see. I mean, on that note of talking about 20 odd years ago and how things are changed, I mean, let's wrap up this show talking about 9/11 a little bit. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up is, I've been watching the documentaries because that was a time in my life where that event actually is what it was the last part of my decision to come home to Hawaii. And like I left the mainland very shortly after 9/11. I just decided it was time to be close to home. But I think what I found interesting about watching those documentaries is, like, I watched it and I remembered like what we were like in this country after 9/11, and I think about where we are now. I'm like, what the fuck?
I think sorry. To your
It's crazy.
To your point,
No, go ahead.
and that's really good. Like it brings back a lot of like pointing out the differences between now and back then. I think 9/11 was probably the point in my life, at least, where I saw the country come together the most. Like, it's the most united I've ever seen the country was 9/11. After 9/11, the whole country became one country. There was no more Republicans, Democrats, liberals, conservatives. It was America. And we're all united.
Right.
And it's like the almost exact opposite right now of that.
And there's a common enemy now, like it was back then, but we just don't approach it as, it's like if we make COVID the common enemy now,
Mhm.
and then you would say, we'll say Osama bin Laden was a common enemy back then, right? We united for that and that cause, this and that. A lot of people died. More people died in COVID than during that time, right? But it's just we're in such a different place. I mean, I remember, like, I'm not the biggest George Bush fan, but I gotta say, man, he gets on that mound. Jeter's giving him crap about making sure he goes to the top of the mound, not pitches in front of the rubber. He goes up there, throws a fucking strike, and goes thumbs up in the freaking, like, dude, that's me. That's a Disney movie in and by itself. Like, I remember watching that live, and the fans go crazy, and like, I'm watching TV, I'm like, fuck, that's awesome, But part of that's like, because I'm a sports guy, so that kind of stuff will always kind of hit home.
Just like that Piazza homer, right?
Yeah,
Piazza home run.
Piazza homer.
Yep.
I'm a Mets fan too, so that was a double bonus, like.
Wow. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're a Mets
That
fan.
contrast, though, the contrast of the mentality back then and the mentality now of, COVID, I think it's a little bit different because it's kind of like a faceless enemy. There isn't a true one. It's not like one fact, and it wasn't deliberate. Like, it wasn't like some, someone's trying to get you, right? It's Mother Nature, right? In many ways, it's like it's evolution, it's Mother Nature, whatever you want to call it. It's deadly, but it's also you can't really attack it. You can defend yourself from it, but you can't really like kill it that way. Like you can with like Osama bin Laden, or if it's the Taliban or the ISIS. It's different, right? But I'd still go back to just the idea that I don't know why and how we got here, going from the most united this country's been to the most divided it's been. I think social media probably had a lot to do with it, because now everyone who has an opinion can post it and get a million likes. And it's really sad to see, because and here I want to make one more point about diversity, because I think back in 2001, I thought diversity was a great thing. And, like, we should celebrate that diversity. But diversity now, when I look at it, I think of it very differently. Diversity is just highlighting things that make us different and make us not want to like each other. Whereas diversity, when I think of it back then, was kind of like introducing me to all these things I didn't know about other cultures or other ethnicities or other countries. And it was kind of cool to get to know all those things, because I didn't know it, And I think it's kind of like we've gone too far almost to highlighting things that will make us different in a negative way now, rather than a positive way. And I think that's a pretty big difference when I think about diversity as a word.
On that note, I guess, any last thoughts? Owen, let's start with you.
And on that note,
No, I mean, thank you for having me on. Thank you very much. But I just think it's cool how, like, a lot of people remember sports moments in times of like tragedy, like where that just can uplift so much people, whether it's the Bush moment or even when the A's won, or was it the A's or
the A's and the Giants were during the earthquake. I mean, no matter what, you were going to win, because one of those two teams were going to win the World Series.
But I mean, there's another conspiracy theory to a lot of that stuff. But I mean, just like Houston winning, and go on and on. But I'm not going to get into that. But
no, you're right. You're right. Absolutely. Ken?
Well, I mean, on the sports note, I mean, you're right. Even sports is no longer the thing that brings us together anymore. You got people kneeling now. You got people raising their fists. You got, it's not. Even sports is politicized and divisive, and people getting into huge fights now, more so than maybe back in 2001. And why is that? Why is even sports the one thing that we should all kind of have in common, right? The same team you should cheer for, the same, like, that's no longer something you celebrate. It's not bringing us together anymore. Some people are turning off their NFL games because they don't want to watch it because people are kneeling, right? Like, why does that have to be something that divides us too? Anyways, that's my observation, at least.
Royce?
I'll leave with this thought. Playing sports, like I did when I was growing up, the one thing I learned from playing sports is to appreciate the differences and the skills that other people brought to the game, whether it's, baseball or soccer or basketball. Everyone has their skill set and their talents, and it's only through bringing them all together as a team that you can have success. And I feel like the United States, is the same way. We have our greatest strength by combining all of the talents, the differing talents and cultures and everything together as one team. And I think that's what we should look to achieve.
You should run for president.
All I have to say is F5000.
Steve, that might be next week.
You guys went deep. I mean, F5000.
You guys, you might be right next week.
Hey Ken, we're banking on you. But
I know, that's what I'm saying, man.
On a serious note, I echo a lot of things you guys say, and it's sad to me when I watch these documentaries. I'll say it again. Like, I just remember what it was like, and it's not that people shouldn't have opinions; they absolutely should. It's just I just don't like when other people's opinions silence others. If you're gonna be loud about it, let other people have their opinions too, and share ideas, have conversations, stop yelling at each other. Like, it's a really good place to start. So we'll see. That's the world we live in. But thank you both for joining us. Royce, thank you ahead of time for editing and getting this thing out in about 7 to 9 days. We'll have we'll have our picks out on our page. We'll try to get them out every Saturday before the Sunday game, so you can lose money with us if you want. But with that, that's all we got. Thank you again for listening. We'll see you guys next time.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thanks for having us.
You.